By order of the Peaky Blinders.
Anyway, we're Peaky Blinders. We're not scared of coppers.
That's right.
If they come for us, we'll cut them a smile each.
My word to who? To a Peaky Blinder?
Arthur Shelby of the Peaky Blinders.
Thomas, you're a bookmaker, a robber, a fighting man. You're not a fool.
Did you know they were going to do it before they did it? Because that's someone who's in charge, isn't it? And who knows before it happens.
I know what I know. If you don't know, then you don't fucking know, do you?
Welcome to PBP, a Peaky Blinders podcast. I'm Jamie G. Esquire the Fifth. Sorry, I'm not currently accepting new clients. I'm here with my main man, the co-host Magnum Mills, and we're going to break down the latest episode of Peaky Blinders. Man, oh man, Magnum Mills. I'm not even sure. I mean, what do we say after this episode, dude? Wow.
Yeah, dude. I mean, a little bit of a change up, especially from the first two episodes, which are very Tommy-centric. And here we have an episode that's not as Tommy-centric, but probably has a bigger impact than, on Tommy than either of those first two episodes did. So lots to unpack here. Let's get right down to business so we can talk about it. This was episode 3 of season 6, simply entitled Gold. It originally aired March 13th, 2022 on BBC One, directed by Anthony Byrne. He also directed all 6 episodes of season 5 and will be directing all 6 episodes of season 6. Again, written by show creator and showrunner Stephen Knight. And just a reminder here, we will be spoiling all aired episodes of Peaky Blinders. That's episode 1 through episode 3 of season 6. So Jamie G, why don't you kick off the episode recap here?
Absolutely, Magnum Mills. We start off here as the Shelbys rush into the hospital with Tommy carrying Ruby. Doctors tell Tommy that Ruby has consumption and certain procedures must be followed. The doctors take Ruby away for x-rays and further examination. Lizzie manages to calm an irate Tommy, who then apologizes and offers to do whatever is asked of him. Tommy is taken for x-rays, where he wonders what they will see inside of him. After being examined, Tommy and Lizzie share a smoke on the stairs outside, and Lizzie tells Tommy that Ruby has a TB infection in her left lung. Lizzie describes the options, which include collapsing the lung, hoping that it heals itself, or treating it with gold. Lizzie slowly breaks down, and Tommy holds her as she sobs. This scene, Magnum Mills, really set the tone for the entire episode. It starts off absolutely chaotic. The camera work here was just outstanding. Catching it from Tommy with the back as he's, from the backside as he's carrying Ruby, rushing in, frantic, the doctors all around. You see them wearing masks out of the fear of the consumption. This scene was just incredible, and it really set the tone for what this episode would be, which was, this was a tough episode, but man, oh man, so much shit happens here in this episode.
Honestly, I might have settled for like a whole bottle episode in the hospital. It doesn't quite work out that way, but next up, we do stay in the hospital and we see Tommy sitting at Ruby's bedside, and Tommy apologizes to Ruby and vows that he will make it go away. After kissing her goodbye, he departs. On the way out, he tells the nurse that they can try the gold, but he's going to try something else. Back at home, Tommy calls Ada on the phone, tells her to meet him in London, and says that Ruby is very sick and he needs 5 days of her time.
5 days. Magnum Mills, one thing I will say about that scene, I loved how the camera angle started on top of Tommy as he's hovering over his desk, and then ended up facing him as he hangs up the phone with Ada. I thought that was really cool. The next scene, we see in London, Diana wondering where Thomas is. We then see Tommy driving his car out of the country. He stops at a crossroads where he sees a bundle of sticks wrapped in a red ribbon near a road sign. Crazy gypsy shit. Back in London, we see Ada arrive to meet with Diana. Ada impresses Diana with her knowledge of Egyptian antiques. Ada informs her that Tommy is not here because his daughter is very ill. Ada comments that they should stick to small talk in the absence of the men, but neither woman seems to have much to say. Diana then informs her that she also enjoys the company of women, if you know what I mean. And by know what I mean, she literally says, and did you know that I like to fuck women as well as men? Ada comments that Tommy was right about everything being a circle. Diana illustrates that she's fully on board with the fascist movement as she talks about the final solution and exterminating Jews. She tells Ada not to worry. She'll argue in favor of sparing the gypsies.
Yeah, that Diana's a real nice chick, right? Like, oh, don't worry. When it comes down to the final end game of killing whole races of people, I'll put in a good word for you. Trust me. I mean, she seems like a real fun one to, interact with these cocktail parties. We kick it back to Tommy, and Tommy arrives at the gypsy camp that he was tracking via those sticks and ribbons, and he flashes his gun, announces that he's there to see Esme. Tommy puts a wad of money up. Esme steps up, claims it, and asks what Tommy wants. Tommy tells her about Ruby and about the death of Polly. After a short conversation, Tommy says that he knows that she has nothing to do with his daughter's sickness, so he heads back towards his car. After that, we see that Mosley has arrived at the meeting. Ada informs Mosley and Diana that she's there to handle their introduction to Jack Nelson. She also says that the Shelbys have the leverage in this situation and they should just shut the fuck up and listen to her. We see Uncle Jack arrive with Gina, and the group exchanges their version of pleasantries, which are kind of pleasant if you're like, you have a little underlying fuck you to everything. Uncle Jack's informed that Tommy is absent due to his daughter being ill, and given the fact that he also lost family members to consumption, while he's not impressed with Tommy not being there, he does express some sympathy for Tommy. Ada then tells them that Tommy is off in search of other treatments that will help save Ruby, although she makes him seem more about science than about gypsy magic. She explains that they are all invited to Tommy's home for a meeting in a few days where the real business will take place.
Tommy attempts to leave the gypsy camp, but his car won't start as Esme has removed a spark plug. Esme claims that she knows something about the matter and there's somebody that Tommy needs to see. She says that she doesn't quite know where to go, but she will take him there, and they leave in Tommy's car. Ada arrives at the Shelby Company offices and asks for all the keys. She lets herself into Tommy's office, and she sits down at the chair behind his desk. She informs the staff that until Tommy comes back down off that mountain, she is in charge. Ada looks at Tommy's appointment book and lets out a soft fuck after looking at an entry with a black star.
Yeah, love Ada, but she needs to work on her fucks a little because she is not on the Arthur Shelby level with them fucks. And then right after that, Ada heads out to actually find Arthur and winds up talking to Isaiah Jesus, who she tells to go to Liverpool to deal with dock workers who've been stealing their opium. Ada tells Isaiah to find Hayden Stagg and follow the instructions that she has given him. He had been marked for death with a black star, but Ada has decided that he'll just catch a beating instead. Ada tells Isaiah to take Arthur with him. Arthur has been clean for 10 days at this point. She tells Isaiah that if he does as she's been instructing, she won't tell Tommy that he's been making side bets on the races that they've been fixing. She then heads over to the garrison and Lizzie arrives. Lizzie tells Ada that collapsing Ruby's lung failed, and they're now worried that the inspection is fed to both lungs. As they commiserate, Lizzie says that she's happy Tommy is not at the hospital with her, as all he wants to do is fight everybody. Despite that, Lizzie asks Ada if she knows when Tommy will be back and wonders if she can get a message to him. Ada then asks if there's anything she can do to help. With nothing really to say, Lizzie departs, and doesn't seem that the talk with Ada has helped her much, if at all.
We finally get to see our boy, Arthur. And I got to tell you, Magnum Mills, he looks a little small and thin. Isaiah tells Arthur that he's recruited some young talent as they head off to Liverpool. And for the record, Magnum Mills, we don't want to be accused of forgetting about the other Shelby brother.
Sometimes motherfuckers act like they forgot about Finn, and in this case, wasn't even sure. Like, dude, I swear to dude, like the dude who plays Finn grows like 6 inches every episode or something like that. I had to like freeze frame and be like, that's Finn, right? Like, I'm pretty sure that's Finn. So maybe I'm wrong, but I freeze framed it. Pretty sure the last dude they hold on is in fact Finn. So we see him, he's in the gang with Isaiah going to Liverpool docks. Makes a lot of sense, the context of the show. So good for you, Finn. And then right after that, we see Tommy and Esme finally arrive somewhere, which just happens to be out in the middle of fucking nowhere. They then, Tommy gets out the car, cuts some ropes, gets the horses ready to go, and he tells Esme that if she's been wasting his time, he'll use that rope to hang her.
Back in Liverpool, we see Arthur and the gang getting ready to go. Arthur gives them a little pep talk, and they head into the docks. Isaiah announces that they are here to meet Hayden Stagg. We meet Hayden Stagg, and Arthur informs him that he's been stealing from the Peaky fucking Blinders. He tells Hayden that they've decided to spare his life despite the Black Star and will only give him a beating. Stagg taunts Arthur about his drug abuse and says that he doesn't mind taking a beating because Arthur takes one every single day from his addiction. He tells Arthur that he once had similar problems and Arthur could recover like him. Isaiah steps in and punches Stagg, asking Arthur for permission to administer the beating. Visibly shaken, Arthur tells him to stand down, and the Peaky crew departs.
Only sobriety can defeat Arthur Shelby. It's amazing. Like literally, like he can, he gets the job done on like a mountain of opium, but sober Arthur, he's struggling a little bit. So then we catch back up with Tommy and Esme. They're still climbing the mountain on horseback. They leave the horses and continue on foot towards a gypsy graveyard. And yep, that's about as Scooby-Doo as it sounds. Esme asked Tommy about the sapphire from 10 years ago that he thought was responsible for Grace's death. Apparently, after Tommy had given it to the gypsy, it was passed to a gypsy's daughter who developed a cough and died at age 7. Esme says that most likely her mother put a curse on Tommy and perhaps delayed it until his daughter was 7, so that Tommy would know how it feels. Tommy asks her for whiskey, but Esme has none. She tells Tommy that perhaps science can help Rudy. Tommy vows to find the woman and says he will pay her 10,000 pounds or whatever it takes. He rips a grave marker from the ground and vows that he will cure Ruby. Esme says that she will help him find the woman in exchange for gold.
Gold, gold, gold. Magnum Mills next. Man, Lizzie is at the hospital waiting for Tommy to arrive. She informs Tommy that Ruby is gone and he wasn't fucking there. She tells him that Ruby's body isn't even there anymore. She's been put in with the dead people. Lizzie says she gave Ruby a kiss goodbye for Tommy and that Tommy loves her. She slowly collapses to the ground in the driving rain as Tommy stands still, unable to fully comprehend what has just happened. Shit, man. That was a wild scene, Magnum Mills. I'm not a fan of any kids ever getting hurt, sick, or dying. So this one was especially tough to watch for me.
Yeah, I mean, I have a no old Yeller rule. I mean, I have a no. Yeah, this feels, appropriate to the time and everything like that. But I think that, obviously there is something to say too. This was written a little bit with the pandemic in mind. I think you have deliberate conversations about the mask. It's about basically a plague kind of. There are some definite parallels to what we've been going through the past few years that I think they're doing intentionally here. It just kind of, I think it makes it hit home on a level where this might not have hit home that deeply, say 5 years ago or something like that.
No, man, it really did. And I will say that despite this episode being so challenging emotionally, this was so well done. I mean, these guys are really dialed in now from a direction, camera work, storyline. I mean, this was a very good episode, and we got a lot more outside of just Tommy. Let's move on to a couple other topics for discussion. The big one, I mean, shit, dude, we just saw it. Let's start right off with it. And again, if you're still listening, obviously, we're going to fucking spoil everything, but here come major spoilers. Magnum Mills, we got to talk about the death of Ruby, bro. I mean, we thought that there would be a Shelby to die, right? We haven't seen a Shelby die since John. And I guess I didn't really consider it could be one of Tommy's kids. When we were thinking about this thing before season 6 came out, I didn't think it would be one of his kids. And here we are. Ruby, Lizzie's only biological child, is dead. I mean, Magnum Mills, right off the bat, let's just jump into the impact of Tommy. We saw Tommy ask for whiskey when he was in the gypsy graveyard. And first of all, that was really cool. Just the way that scene was filmed in the gypsy graveyard, kick ass. But we're here to talk about the death of Ruby and the impact on Tommy. Will this be the thing that drives him to drink, Magnum Mills?
I think 100% so. He even said another comment in the graveyard, something like, now that he could drink again or something. It was kind of a little bit of a throwaway line when he was ranting in there, but now that I guess that he thinks that he has a cause for this with the sapphire or whatever, that now it's not on him, so he can go back to doing what he was before, because that wasn't what made the bad thing happen, I guess. Again, I think at the end of the episode, what you see is him being faced with the reality of that no matter what he wants to tell himself, yeah, he absolutely does fucking have limitations. And whether they're not, maybe he's willing to die or whatever, but, how willing is he to let everyone around him die just to get kind of whatever he wants? And it, as it's been shown that he really doesn't, he thinks that money can solve everything. And the answer to everything is just to have more, just more. And, now I really think going forward, he's going to try to fill this hole left by the death of Rudy with, again, just more. Whether it's more revenge, more money, more political power. That's where I see it going with Tommy. How about you, Jimmy G?
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, one thing that's interesting here is at the beginning of the scene, the first scene where they're rushing into the hospital and he's losing his shit. He's basically saying it's because they wouldn't let me pass. And he did it on purpose. He wanted to die to protect Ruby, is what it sounded like to me. And the fact that he wasn't able to kill himself at the end of season 5, beginning of season 6 here, that is what this is. So I just think this impact on Tommy, you really thought when he was in the gypsy graveyard and he made that huge speech and he had a plan and he put it out into the universe, the reality in which he wanted to have. He put it out. And he spoke it with conviction. You really thought like, shit, man, maybe this will happen. And Esme was right along with him. She signed up to help him find this woman. And you can only find a gypsy when they want you to find them. So, I mean, this was an important piece to have her. And then boom, we find out none of it mattered. So I do think, like you said, this is again pointing out his limitations. I agree with you on that, man. I think this is going to put Tommy into a bit of a downward spiral. And we've seen this almost in every episode with Tommy, or every season rather with Tommy, where something happens where he just, he gets deeper and deeper and deeper into his hole. And I think this will certainly do it. Outside of Tommy, what does this do to Lizzie and the impact on their marriage?
Yeah, obviously these two things are going to have to be tied together. I would say, I guess real quick before we go into that, how long do you think between the end of this episode and whenever the next episode starts is? Like, what is the time jump between the last moment of this episode and the first minute of, episode 4? Do they pick right up there? Do they jump forward a day, a week, a year? I mean, doesn't it seem possible that they might jump forward a little bit from there and all of a sudden, Lizzie and Tommy are separated? Would that really surprise you?
Not at all. I mean, they've done this a lot in the past where something big happens and they're not afraid to jump a couple of years in advance. I mean, shit, this season starts, and you just get a 4-year jump. So, I mean, there's a lot here. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Something's going to tell me with all the other storylines pending with Jack and something's going to tell me that if they do, it's not going to be a lot of time. That's my guess, but shit, dude, wouldn't surprise me to see a couple years go by either. But I'm saying they're going to stick kind of close to the same time frame.
Yeah, they probably can't yada the meeting with Uncle Jack and Mosley and whatever that Ada was pitching them on in London. So I guess they could really, if it's just maybe Tommy. That's the one thing now. I mean, there is also a chance that this just takes Tommy out of the loop completely, and so Ada just 5 days turns into whatever interim, like a head coach who gets fired. Like, it's just, all right, you're the interim kind of, and you just keep going until we hire somebody else or whatever. In her case, maybe that 5 days again just lingers on. I mean, overall, man, I think this is going to crush Lizzie. Like, you saw her kind of just gradually crumbling throughout the episode. She's always been so good at kind of just holding it together and being, someone we thought could kind of pick up the reins from Polly, because she was always had her shit together, really, for lack of a better. She really was just, you really never saw her for a loss for words, or really thrown, or really just in a spot where she didn't really understand what was going on or what her place was, or, just a very smart woman. And here, man, this just devastated her. In that, just the final, she just slowly collapses on the stairs, and rain's pounding, and Tommy just looks at, and he just doesn't even, like, at that point, yeah, you can kind of feel that maybe that was what was keeping them together, kind of. So
Yeah, no, and you saw it earlier in the episode when she was venting to Ada, where she wants a normal man. She needs a normal man right now, and she doesn't have anything but a normal man. Doctors and science know what this disease is and know how to treat it, and her husband is on a mountain chasing gypsy folklore. And so, I mean, this is, they kind of planted the seed here a little bit about the erosion of Tommy and Lizzie. And I think this is going to do one or two things. It's either going to push Lizzie over the edge and her and Tommy crumble, or it's going to change Lizzie and she's going to get angry at the world and she's going to be the female version of Tommy. One of those two things will happen.
It goes back around a little bit, right, to the scene in the first episode where Tommy pulls the trigger, but the gunner said there's no bullets, and then Ada comes up and gives him the bullets. Yeah. She's been unhappy for a while here, and despite the fact that this is, not really Tommy's fault. We know it was a real disease, but maybe she's going to hold Tommy responsible, even if it's not directly his fault, just for not being there or whatever. So I think we kind of both feel like we're in agreement here that Lizzie and Tommy are probably not going to be, together going forward, right? I mean,
I think it's more likely that this causes them to split, at least temporarily, than it doesn't. And I think that's just, one thing I do want to talk about a little bit, Magnum Mills, before we, as we kind of get into another topic here, another thing. Dude, I thought the whole medical scene when they first came in to the hospital was super cool. It really, from a period appropriate standpoint, I thought it was spot on in terms of the masks and, the doctors and, just the general medical science of the time. And you forget, dude, like tuberculosis was an absolute killer that ravaged the earth for a long time. I mean, it really was. I mean, it wasn't just a thing that killed our boy Doc Holliday, right? Like, I mean, this was a thing that took out lots of people. So, I thought that was pretty cool. I was not familiar with the gold treatment, and I really enjoyed that scene with Tommy, whereas he looks, she's like, if the collapsed lung doesn't work, then they'll move on to trying gold. And he looks at her and he's like, gold. And she's like, and then she explains the treatment. And then she's like, the doctors explained it to you and you came here to take pictures as the clinic open. And he goes, wasn't listening. I don't remember. And, it's just so funny. So he went through that whole thing as he went and opened up a medical clinic and posed for pictures and did the whole thing. And he wasn't even paying attention or listening. And so he can't remember. So, I thought that was a cool scene regarding the gold treatment. I don't know if that's a real treatment or not from back in the day. It probably was.
It's funny because I was going to say that I don't know exactly, but it's honestly, it sounds kind of like, again, something with a lot of people with money might have tried. I think that's really the commentary, and even calling it the gold treatment, whether it's real or not, just showing what the difference is, that they are trying everything, like right down to literally injecting money into her. South Park even parodied that a little bit when they did their AIDS episode with Magic Johnson. And it was like, oh, you can cure AIDS, just inject a whole like $20 million in you and you're good. One of those things about what can money buy. And I think you see that again with Tommy in the gypsy graveyard at the end, saying, oh, I'll give her 10,000 pounds or whatever it takes, thinking that he can just, buy his way out of anything. The same way that helping to set up these, clinics and hospitals and medical facilities, he thinks that, makes everything he does okay because he did that. He did that good thing. And that's, goes back to kind of him. We didn't, I think that broke you a little bit this episode because I don't think we heard Polly this episode. So,
yeah. He referenced her, but we didn't hear her voice, which I really thought there was a place or two where they could have put it. Too bad they didn't consult your boy Jamie G, Esquire the Fifth, MD, Master of Surgical Arts, for both the treatment of Ruby and where to place Polly in this episode. But Magnum Mills, you're right. The gold treatment, the gold request from Esma, I thought that was super cool with how they titled this episode. And it was a running theme throughout. I think we should probably move on here to.
And real quick, just one thing, because but it does seem that maybe looking back that, this episode feels, a fair bit different than the first two episodes, which felt almost like two-parter, even though they didn't call it that. They felt almost like one unit, the way they operated, the way they were shot, with Tommy basically being the main character, just picking up on these couple of plots or whatever. And they called both those episodes, like Black Day, Black Shirt. And then they changed it up here because I was thinking, that was one of my predictions that it got shot down. Like, oh yeah, everything would be black something, but now it changed to, gold. So maybe they did kind of view those two episodes as a little bit of a companion piece. And then you move on to this, which felt, just different, both from a thematic standpoint. It was shot a little bit different, and it definitely focused on a different group of characters, whereas the first two episodes are very Tommy centric.
Yes. And Magnum Mills, we got to talk a little bit more about Lizzie here. I mean, the actress absolutely murders the game. I mean, she kills it in this scene. She doesn't have a ton of scenes, but throughout the entire episode, and obviously the first scene and the last scene involving Ruby at the hospital. I mean, she is just murder, dude. She's so good, and you really start to see Lizzie taking on a lot of different abilities here in terms of where they're going with this character. And I think the character arc is fascinating for Lizzie, because I can't quite, at first it was like, okay, she's got a chance to replace Polly. Then it's like, now, holy shit, we're seeing this whole other side of her, and where is she going? Right. And is it going to be a split? Is she going to seek revenge against Tommy? Is everybody going to seek revenge against Tommy eventually? I mean, it's just fascinating to see what happens with Lizzie here.
Yeah. Again, just like, I think three major scenes, the early one with Tommy, and then with Ada at the garrison, and then it's again at the end with Tommy. But the actress, both A, is fantastic, and B, you have to remember, she does a lot of her scenes with Cillian Murphy, who's we forget, like, he's so good. He's like almost Gandolfini as Soprano, like the way he slips into Tommy Shelby. Like, if you just like hear him talk in a regular interview or whatever, it's not that he's completely different or something, but it was like Gandolfini, he was American, but he still didn't sound the same as he sounded as Tony Soprano.
Right.
And the fact that she can hold up on the screen with him, and like just not only hold her own, but be an equal screen partner. It's very, I think Edie Falco is a good comp for her too here, going back to the Sopranos as well, because she is handled, kind of a plot line at times where it could make you as the audience not necessarily sympathize with her, but I think she's done a great job with it. And you can see why, despite it all, Tommy would still want to be with her.
100%, bro. I think Tommy needs her, and I
right. Tommy needs her more than she needs him at this point. I think that's pretty clear.
100%.
Her life would probably be better for getting away again, and that's kind of interesting in the episode where you bring Esme back to kind of, she's like the one that got away. Like, she's the only one who so far escaped the Shelbys, kind of. So it makes you wonder, if Lizzie would be literally better off if Tommy was just like, here, like take the son and just run.
The only other ones that have escaped have been through death and Grace and Polly. Dude, I gotta talk a little bit about Tommy's gypsy adventures, dude. Like, I personally, I loved the way that scene evolved, and they kept coming back to it, and it grew, and the way it looked visually was just awesome. And the way they paint this picture and tell the story of gypsies during this time frame is super cool, dude. Like, I love the gypsy shit, honestly. And you talk to some people that watch the show and they're like, I could do without the gypsy shit. Not me, dude. I think the show absolutely needs the gypsy element for so many reasons. And if you go back all the way through back to season 1, it's been an advantage of Tommy Shelby. It's been a disadvantage of Tommy Shelby, and it adds a very unique perspective here, and just another, complexion of how crazy this show is. I love the gypsy shit, man. And you talked about Esme, right? And let's just talk about the Esme of it all. I mean, I thought she did a great job stepping back in front of the camera here. Tommy's line where he first encounters her and he's telling her to tell the men to stand down, and she's saying, what makes you think I'm in charge? And he says, I'm sure of it. I thought that was very cool. And the whole scene where he's finding the clues and crazy gypsy shit to get there. I love this, dude. Big fan of Tommy's Gypsy Adventures. And it looked different than the rest of the show. It was almost like it was like when someone does a flashback or something where they make it look slightly different. I loved how they did this.
Oh, 100% fantastic. And, I don't mind a little bit if we do a little bit of cross promotion here, but we do talk about It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia on our podcast, The Night Pot Cometh. In there, they actually, went to Ireland, filmed some stuff for their latest season, and it was incredibly large in scope, just incredibly, beautiful shots. And you've never really seen anything like that on Sunny before. And here, you've never really seen anything like this on Peaky, as far as you don't go out in the country much. And when you do, even with the other gypsy stuff, it was generally like with people undercover or on a bridge or in a close,
in the woods,
wide open vistas and mountainous terrain. And, it's kind of ironic. They do the thing where, like, all right, the car can take us so far. Now we got to take a horse. Horse can only take us so far. Now we got to walk. And, that's kind of like the 3 acts of a movie or whatever. And I think that his, basically journey through the gypsy portion of this episode is, again, its own little 3-act play, where at the end here, he can't decide if he has, ultimately accepted that, it's okay, it's a curse and I'll make it better. Or he's like, oh, fuck, it's a curse. Like, I'm fucked. Like, what can I do? And just starts yelling about throwing money at it because he can't think of anything else.
Yeah. And his, again, the acting here is just, it's so good, dude. Going from the frantic, crazed, scene in the beginning when he's bringing in Ruby, to the calm, political correct, polished businessman, and back and forth to the gypsy shit, to the bargaining and Romany, all of it. I mean, Cillian Murphy is just so good here. Magnum Mills, I gotta be honest with you, bro. I know this is like sacrilege when it comes to Peaky Blinders, but I forgot about the sapphire and the whole thing that he thought it cursed Grace. I actually like that they brought it back here, because I did not see it coming at all. So much shit has happened in this show that I forgot about it, to be honest with you.
I think that makes sense as a viewer where you'd forget about it, but Tommy Shelby is not someone who would forget about that. But he had thought by passing it on to BB, it's not Betsy Bryan, it was somebody like that. But he thought that because he'd even warned her and she took it anyways. So he thought he was absolved. Yeah. But then you hear like, oh, she passed it on to her daughter who died at age 7. And therefore, she probably put the curse on you. That's one of those things where, in the real life, I guess, could that happen? Like, they even made a point to say, oh, she had a cough when it got to her. Maybe there was a disease transmitted on the actual jewel itself or something, or just random. But they do kind of leave it open both ways, where, yeah, you can, if you want to make yourself think it was a gypsy curse. But on the other hand, maybe she just, got the TB as well at the consumption.
It was cool, but are you a fan that they brought it back, Magnum Mills? Or
absolutely.
Did this bother you?
Anytime a show like that can generally kind of, again, close the circle, as Tommy's talked about, and bring something back around like that, I think it's excellent. I think it's well done here, and it's a perfect excuse to bring Esme back into the fold, which maybe they might not have gone here if the actress who played Polly hadn't died. But given what they had to work with, I think it works extremely well. And it kind of makes sense here that Tommy, he makes this long journey into the mountains, and he gets to the top of the mountain, kind of like, and that's supposed to bring absolution, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, Peaky's such a good show, because it wanted you, I thought maybe they flip it around and then, Ruby winds up surviving, but, and then Ruby winds up surviving, but then it winds up that it affected Lizzie or something. And that makes a little bit of a pivot, but they went to probably the harder place there. And I would say maybe one thing, do you think this means that we've seen the last of Esme, or do you think despite this, we see her again for the end of the season?
Look, I will say this. If they brought her back and signed her on for this season, just simply for this episode, it was worth it. But I'm going to say that she has at least one more episode where she's involved on the back 3 here. I just have to believe that we're going to at least see her at least one more time.
Fair enough. I guess she's probably not going to be getting with Arthur at this point, which I think I randomly predicted last week. But you got to try when you're making the predictions. You got to do a little bit. And I guess the kind of the last thing here is, despite all the magic, despite everything, Tommy obviously believes in all this gypsy shit, but yet he thinks that he can buy a gypsy into lifting the curse. Like, does he really think that money can fix everything like that? And if so, I mean, does that make his character make a little more sense, that really at the end of the day, he just thinks, again, money solves everything?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think he has gone through so much.
I mean, even why he didn't think anything could happen to Ruby, because he had money. So they would get the doctors. And, it's kind of, we feel like that, I think, in real life, a little bit like that. If you have like good health insurance or whatever, you have all the good stuff. And it's like, all right, nothing will ever happen to me. I'm cool. Or just like you have a safe car and tested well, and, you're got airbags and you're good. And
yeah, no, but I mean, the fact is, dude, is he does, because of how he's accomplished. It's all been because of his ability to make money and utilize it to generate more money and get out of problems that he created for the use of getting money. So it all comes down to that for him. And you think that he's just gotten as far as, I mean, he's OBEMP. How much money is Shelby Company Unlimited making? My guess is their revenues are through the fucking roof. I mean, the guy thinks that he can do anything because he can. One line that was really interesting for me, Magnum Mills, and we'll move on to another scene here, but when Tommy's going through the x-ray and he says to himself quietly, what will they see inside? And he says, God knows what they'll see inside. And it was really interesting because he's an atheist after the war, but this is twice now we've seen him in 2 episodes back to back talk about God.
Well, and also I think what he was also deep down thinking about is, remember, he'd been having those seizures and everything like that. So maybe he's also kind of, half worried, but also maybe a little hopeful that someone would say something and that's a problem. Maybe it's not God, maybe it's the devil, or maybe there's just nothing. Maybe he's empty inside. Yeah. I think that, again, this is a show that does well with the metaphors. I think that's a little bit of, heavy-handedness here at some point, but I don't mind them basically beating us on the head with the themes a little bit, because it's important to have themes. And basically here, everything they do is pretty fantastic, especially the way that after the first 2 episodes were so focused on Tommy that even like his grief is kind of what powers the episode overall. But like, it's like he's the gas, but it's just putting gas in the engine that is Ada, who I think ultimately drives the episode.
100%. And speaking of that is the perfect segue to all that Ada, baby. I mean, dude, I think Ada is on fire. I think this is her best episode of the series. And if this is what we're going to get with Ada from now on, give me all of it. She is intelligent. She is sharp. She is stunning. She is sexy. She is brilliant. She is fearless. And I absolutely love Ada taking on a leadership role. This was outstanding work by Ada. Outstanding.
She pretty much won every scene she was in, and she basically had a scene with everybody except Tommy. Like, we heard the Tommy side of the phone conversation asking her for 5 days, and we do hear her again refer to the 5 days, but she seemed to be getting pretty comfortable. And she told people, she didn't say, she said 5 days once, but otherwise it was like, well, until Tommy comes back down off that mountain. And that's also, again, can be metaphorical as well, because who knows where Tommy is going to go from here. My guess is to the bottle. And I think that, weirdly could drive Arthur too, like kind of, because Arthur's trying to say it's over, so that could drive a wedge between them too. We'll maybe get to that in our predictions. But yeah, dude, overall, how do you dude, overall, Ada was just so, I can't express to you. She just, again, dominated every scene she was in. Maybe it's a little easier to go through them, one by one, but I thought especially when she gets, to the offices, she's like, well, bring me all the keys. And then she just goes down in Tommy's office, sits down at the chair. Like, do you want to what? No, I want a whiskey. Well, Mr. Shelby does not allow whiskey in the building anymore. She's like, well,
go fetch me some. Yeah. No, dude, she
slipped right into that.
Yes.
And I don't think she'd ever quite despite being, Tommy's political advisor or whatever, I don't think she'd ever quite been, promoted to the main chair, so to speak, like that. And man, that main chair fits her like it was made for her.
And it comes with a heavy price. We saw what happened in Sopranos when Silvio tries to take over for Tone and he freaking has a panic attack, and so it's not easy.
Tommy is the head that wears the crown. I mean, there's a reason that is a quote that is more or less perpetuated for years because
yes. And I think we saw this with Ada. Something clicked with her when she went into that meeting with Diana that Tommy was supposed to be on, and she knew she could manipulate, she could win, and she could handle herself, and she fucking loved it. And she even said, despite my reluctance, I'm actually quite good at this. And she is. And that carried over to every other scene she was in. I mean, yeah, the scene where she goes into Tommy's office was awesome. I wasn't a fan of the fur, but it was really appropriate for the time. We're coming out of the roaring 20s into the 30s. She's super loaded. Yeah, she's got a fox on her and shit, whatever it was. I was just waiting for Ace Ventura to come and punch an old Monopoly guy and put him over his shoulder and like pet him as wearing fur. But anyways, that's a shout out to Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls. People should watch that. It's a good one.
I definitely want to get more into that big scene in London. And I think was there anything else you wanted to say about the scene at the Garrison with Ada and Lizzie? I think we kind of covered it from the Lizzie side before. Is there anything we didn't get to about that you want to talk about?
No, I loved, again, we saw Ada completely in control. She's pouring herself a drink. I love how it opens up where you just see the dry gin and all the bottles and Ada's reflection in the mirror behind that. Thought that was really cool. She tells Lizzie to lock the door because men this early start drinking in this town. So what I loved about it was she was in total control and powerful, but at the same time, incredibly empathetic to what was going on with Lizzie. And she didn't offer solutions. She didn't do anything but listen and be supportive. And I really enjoyed that scene. I thought, again, there were little things with the camera when she passes her the cigarette and they kind of touch. And at the end, when she holds her hand, that I thought really just showed her power but her ability to lead with empathy. And it's not something that Tommy has done well all the time. And I thought Ada did an outstanding job there with Lizzie.
Yeah, all that and a box of chocolates. And especially shout out, director Anthony Byrne. After doing season 5 in here, especially given the long wait, he's been working with these characters for 5-6 years now. So just really seems to have this down to the point where I'm hoping he's directing the movie. I know they haven't announced that yet, but that would be my hope, obviously, that you return obviously Stephen Knight to write it, Anthony Byrne to direct it. That's what I would like from that.
This combination absolutely works, dude. I mean, they are so dialed in right now. And before we get to that big scene, Magnum Mills, with Mosley and Diana, should we talk about the?
Yeah, let's talk about the weird sexual chemistry between Ada and Isaiah Jesus, right?
Yes, dude. I felt it. And I was like, damn, I kind of want him to bang right here. Like, yo, this is kind of cool. But yes, dude, it was I like Isaiah, the character here. He's a dude that's always kind of been on the come up a little bit. And when he's had opportunities, I've enjoyed his character. And I love what Ada did here, stepping in as he's getting off the phone, got to run, the boss's sister's here. I'm not the boss's sister anymore. I'm the boss. And that was very cool. She sits right down at his desk, lights a cigarette, and begins to play with the boy mentally. And I thought it was absolutely fantastic of Ada.
Oh, absolutely. And what I found interesting was I wasn't sure if that Tommy already kind of knew. Like, obviously she says at the end, like, oh, I won't tell Tommy that you've been betting on our fixed races on the side or whatever. But it kind of makes me wonder, was that something that she picked up like from reading Tommy's notes or whatever? So Tommy already kind of knew, or if she was smart enough to she went over, the books or what have you and figured it out herself. I think either way, it probably works, but just kind of interesting that she does the complete Shelby thing of just at the end of the conversation, she gets the last word. Like, she holds at the end of the day, she has more red right hands there.
she has all the red right hand in that relationship, and I am curious to see if anything
I think
comes
they
of
might
that.
exchange hands. They might hands across the world or whatever it was back in the day. Where everyone's
Yes.
they might do a little like moons over Miami to make it a little more Denny's of you.
I mean, look, dude, if Ada just wants to go out and just get whatever dick Ada wants, Ada deserves that. She's been through a lot, bro.
You know what? And let's go in. That brings us perfectly into the scene in London because
Yes.
like Diana, she literally throws it at Ada. Like, I mean, again, up there for
Wants to
the
bang
possible
Ada.
line of the episode. Be like, oh, and do you know that I enjoy fucking women as well as men? And he's just like, so she doesn't say so, but the look is she's kind of like, and
She kind of just smirks and almost as if she knew.
like
Of course you want to have sex with me. Like, I'm Ada Thorne. Like, yes, of course you do. Yeah, dude, I saw it kind of coming, but I'm not gonna lie, dude. That line almost it took me back a little bit, and I loved it when she said it. I was like, oh my god, that's an amazing line. And it was a little bit stunning, but not totally, because Diana has this strange sexual energy about her.
Diana, like, dude, Diana again, so quotable. And I quote, I don't read novels, I only read pornography and politics.
Absolutely incredible. Yes, dude, I like the character of Diana. Again, it is a sharp, witty character who has bigger plans of world domination and is playing Mosley to be able to get it, but is interested in playing, manipulating, fucking anyone else she crossed paths with that she believes to have power and money. And I love this development of this character. I'm really glad, because it makes, now it's kind of like when we get Mosley, we're getting Diana and Mosley, so it's better than just Mosley. And I like that they decided to do that from a directional standpoint of what to do with the character of Mosley. We're kind of getting Mosley and Diana instead of just Mosley moving forward, which is cool with this season.
And I think they do an excellent job of highlighting the fact that she is the only one in this room that is an actual true believer. Like, yes. Obviously, like Uncle Jack he's just trying to be on the winning side. Mosley, same thing. He just did the old lick your finger, stick it up in the air, try to figure out which way the wind is blowing. But Diana, she's a true believer. And she just, down to the point where she talks about kind of eugenic theory, the final solution, just in the fact that
people are
right in
genes,
but like she can have sex with women, no problem. But if other women did it, she probably would have a problem with it, because, rules for thee, not for me. She considers herself to be the Steven Seagal of it. She is above the law.
She is. She makes the laws, dude. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. One thing about this scene that I didn't like, Magnum Mills, and it's not the scene itself, it's that look, bro, I'm going to be honest with you here. I want to like Uncle Jack. I do. But it's coming along slow for me. Not a big fan of the accent. I don't think they got it right being a Boston accent. I think it's more of like you're trying to have a New York accent, but you don't. I don't know, man. He's not this was probably his best scene. It's only his second scene, but I'm not, the whole Boston storyline is still kind of a weak thing for me when you look at all the varying storylines. And it's taken me a little bit longer than I'd like to admit here to fall in love with this character. I want to. On paper, it's great. I'm just struggling to get there.
I would say that, yeah, you got kind of the line where the butler came in or whatever and almost shit on the Americans for like the way they were parking and the way they looked or whatever. So I think the scene was shot a little bit in a condescending nature to the Americans to begin with. But I think I don't really have a problem. Again, the accent, it's not kind of what we're used to, but I think there's a chance that A, it's period appropriate, or B, it's like somebody who has, like, think about how New York, there's different New York accents. I'm pretty sure there's different Boston accents. I know there's like a Southie, so maybe it's the guy who was from the poor spot, but he's trying to talk like he has the more well-defined or well-respected Boston accent. So that's why it doesn't sound, this is the kind of show I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that they're doing something deeper. But it is again, I think a European actor portraying him. But honestly, they do American accents far better than Americans do European accents, so I will almost always give them the benefit of the doubt at that point. But you know what I think is interesting here? We have the 4 major players here, right? We have Ada, we have Uncle Jack, we have Gina. See, motherfuckers, I forgot Gina. So 5, Gina, and then you have Diana and Mosley. Just real quick, at the end of this meeting, just give me your power rankings. We'll start bottom to the top. Just rank the 5 people, and I will go first with who is the lowest person when you walk out of this room. And I'm going to go with number 5, Mosley. He's the least.
I'm going to say
powerful.
Gina. I'm going to say Gina, but Mosley's a close second.
Gina's by 4. Gina's by 4.
And
Just
Mosley's
because I
my
think
4.
Mosley is a total cuck to Diana, whereas at least Gina has power over Michael. That's why I went with that ranking that way.
Could totally understand that. It just, this scene, it felt like Uncle Jack is just clearly using Gina, like Gina's just kind of a peon, and they're related. That's why she's kind of got a seat at the table. But to me, yeah, I go Gina, then Mosley, for sure. But I think they're interchangeable. You could say, yeah, I totally agree with you. Mosley being just a,
See, I guess the same kind of thing. So we both probably, I guess, have Ada at 1. So it's a question of who do you think is more hand right now, Diana or Uncle Jack?
Diana.
Ooh,
I
so
got Diana.
She thinks she has more, a little bit more, whether it's power and influence or. Okay.
She does. She has access to the 20 million people that listen to her fiance speak. She's really shaping the vision of everything Mosley's doing, and she's completely pulling the strings behind the curtain there. So Uncle Jack, I think, like you said, he's concerned about his political connections back home, being on the right side of things, getting political goodwill, and let's face it, his liquor licenses to make a boatload of money. That's what it's about
he
for
also,
him.
I think, he had a pretty good metaphor when he came in and started talking. It was something basically where he, talked about kind of basically being the bull in the china shop, because he would then just pick up the glass with his bare hands to clean it up or whatever. I think that's a different approach, and I think that's kind of where he is coming from a little bit. I do think, it's kind of interesting, because in the back of my head, it would be like, in a typical thing, I'd be like, oh, he's the guy who's going to ultimately partner with Alfie Solomons, but there's no way, right? Like they couldn't partner together at the end to fuck Tommy over, could they?
Man, yeah, I mean, you can never say never with this show, but that would be wild, bro, because I mean, again,
they'd be out of character
about,
for them, because they're like, they would
he hates the South Bout. I mean, he killed the South.
It would have to be it would have to sound
Alfie's
like
uncle.
a crazy movie thing where
yes,
where I wouldn't like it
kill.
because it would be Alfie versus Tommy in the movie, and I want them to be like against Hitler or something.
One thing I will say about this scene, though, Magnum Mills, is I thought the background and the setting was awesome. If you looked around, all the furniture, the curtains, all the art on the wall, it was just so appropriate for wealth in 1933 in England. And I really enjoyed the dialogue. I thought the dialogue in this scene was as good as it gets for this show. So much back and forth, witty commentary, remarks. Really enjoyed it a lot.
Oh, great quotes. And I like the petty shit too, like Diana telling her butler to check the label on Edith's coat or whatever, because she thought that she dressed well, but she wanted to see how well. That's like almost some Austin Powers shit. Like it's almost into the line of parody, but yet again, back in the day when people would think, hell, that still probably happens now.
It's
People want to know, like,
happens.
oh, are those real Jordans or are they not, or real whatever jeans? And the fact that you can get fakes that are close enough that people can't tell for a tenth of the price or something should tell you all you need to know.
Same thing with Rolex.
You're buying a thing, yeah. You're buying a peace of mind kind of thing. Maybe I'll give like a Rolex or something, because in theory that should last for far longer than a fake would. But as far as like see somebody with it on the wrist at a random party or something.
Yep. I like that. And then I liked when Mosley came in and told her in front of Ada, and Diana says, that is an expensive brand, unlike the cheapness of your perfume, and just basically owns his bitch.
Oh, the perfume I smell on you. Yeah. Cause I think that she was me. Yeah. Like, cause I think he was with somebody else, I'm assuming.
Yes. Basically he was
like a whore. Yeah.
Whoring around. Yeah.
Or yeah, because he had, maybe it was a date before, because remember Lizzie had said that she fucked him.
Yes.
the previous episode. Maybe that was a little dig or callback onto that.
Yes.
That might be cool.
So now he smells like a cheap whore. Yes. That
might be a little interesting, just a little. Maybe that's probably not it, but in my
some inside baseball
my
shit
personal,
there, dude.
my personal continuity, I would like it if it was kind of tied together there. I think that would be cool.
Would too. Love the inside baseball shit. This scene was fantastic. We just, again, really, really, really well done. Let's move on to one of our favorite parts of every single episode, our guy, and that is all about Arthur. Let's talk Arthur Shelby, bro. Big news here. Big news. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, 9, 8, not 9, but 10 days clean for Arthur.
Even if they have to lock him in a safe, whatever it takes. Like, he's sleeping on floors. He's literally being locked in a safe to prevent him from going down to China Row. Good for you, Arthur. But again, as we mentioned before, he does seem a little bit frail, a little bit smaller. Again, maybe the actor lost some weight, but I think it's kind of the way they're shooting him a little bit. They probably put clothing that's a little bit oversized on him, but he does look a little just, and you think it's okay. He gives a good little pep talk or whatever, and you're like, all right, this is Arthur. Here we go. He's a little quiet, but he's saying the right stuff. He's got the good body language, and then he gets in there and he comes in, meets Stephen Graham, and Arthur is kind of questioning everything, so just a little preview of the predictions. My guess is when we see next episode, Arthur still sober, Tommy not sober. What do you think, Jamie G?
Man, the boy Jamie G is going to agree with you. I think Arthur's made it through 10 hard days. I like the whole, again, there's cool dialogue in this episode here where, where's Arthur? Well, he's in the safe. We lock him in there whenever he gets the Yamsies, and what is that? It's basically whenever he's jonesing for freaking dope, they throw him in there. And a normal person gets it 2 times a day. Arthur gets it 3. I mean, I thought this was really cool scene, and I'm happy for Arthur, dude. I want more Arthur, and I knew it at the beginning of this episode the beginning of the season rather, when they decided to go down this road with Arthur. We were going to see Arthur's character again be totally, break another ceiling here with what they're able to do with this guy. I mean, the scope of Arthur's character is so wild. I mean, think about it, dude. We've seen him literally be suicidal, literally be beating people to death, be a raging alcoholic, be a mad cokehead, banging all sorts of trim. We've seen him find Jesus, get married, go back to being on the bender, now a freaking heroin addict. I mean, this guy has been through it all. I love the actor so much, and I'm just glad we still get Arthur, but baby, give me more Arthur fucking Shelby.
Dude, you can never have too much Arthur, but yeah, coming off of that gets him hype, man. I was hyped when they brought him in there, and then, man, we meet Stephen Graham's character finally. It's not Al Capone, and I mean, the dude is like a far cry from Al Capone, kind of like he kills him with kindness, dude. I mean, what did you think about the fucking ball, dude? He shows up, he's kicking this, he's got the little fucking soccer ball. It's all gonna be cool. And then, Arthur gets in his face, and then he talks Arthur down. I mean, just how did you feel about that? Did you think the boy, hey, Stag, do you think that, I believe him, right? He seemed truthful, I think, right? Do you think he was telling the truth about him, of his own thing with addiction and whatnot or whatever? Or?
Yes, I think he was, dude. And it's not necessarily the Stephen Graham that I love. I love Stephen Graham as a wild, loose cannon, willing to cut somebody's face off just because they look at him weird, right? And we saw that with Al Capone and different roles that he's had. But
I think he still might have that, though. I think this might be a fake out. That's all I was saying. I think
it could be
a little fake out. I'm saying
it could be a little fake out, but it also could have been a moment of realness there. And it for whatever it was, dude, it was well done. He had the ability to relate to Arthur and talk Arthur down, kind of, I think maybe better than even Tommy. And it's really the only person we've saw, on the show. Maybe you can make a case for Linda a little bit here and there, be able to kind of get through to Arthur. And you got to hand it to him, man. Hayden with no E, just straight up N. He did it, bro. He did it. He got through to him a little bit. I don't know. It would be more interesting if it was a total psych out and he ends up being a madman out for world domination and will become a true enemy and rival Tommy. And Tommy will get angry that they didn't listen to him and take the Black Star approach. That's what's most likely to happen. But I do think maybe he did battle addiction and overcome it.
It seemed very real. If not, I mean, maybe there's a little, maybe it's both. Maybe he did, but he's still also trying to do, the smart thing for him. Kind of a little bit, maybe like a gun to your Special Agent Johnson here. Like, do you think that we see him play a big role in whatever the end game of the season is, whether it's maybe what side he picks? Does he disrupt the opium deal that fucks everything up? Does he keep Arthur wants to keep talking to him and that fucks everything up? I mean, any thoughts?
I think he's got to play a big role. I think he either A, develops a relationship with Arthur because Arthur understands, he understands what Arthur's going through, and Arthur believes that maybe he can help him stay sober, and that messes stuff up because essentially he's sabotaging everything and playing Arthur's weakness to get into the Shelby Company Unlimited. That could definitely be. And I think that's probably most likely because the guy's got to have a lot of confidence now. If you're Hayden Stagg, you got to have a lot of confidence. The Peaky fucking Blinders came to take you to the Black Star pub, the last fucking drink you'll ever have. And instead, they were going to beat your ass. And instead, Arthur left in tears. And all you got was a punch from Isaiah. That's a win if you're Hayden Stagg. That's a win.
I think going forward, Arthur is going to try to stay sober. I would say by the end of the season, he's off the opium, maybe not skiing, but he's probably back on the booze, something like that. Maybe he starts smoking a little bit of the marijuana, the whatnot. And I will say overall, because there was some, Stephen Graham was playing kind of a mystery role going into the season. We didn't know. We thought maybe he would be the guy playing, Uncle Jack. Overall, man, I'm kind of happy. Like he came in, he had great kind of energy. He was something different. He was their version of kind of maybe like a Polly or someone a little bit more like, oh, I've been there, done that, but kind of a level head kind of situation. So I think I like the Hayden Stagg overall. Jamie G, how did you feel about the introduction of Stephen Graham as Hayden Stagg?
I thought it was fantastic. It was not what I expected at all. And I think that he is going to be, I think we should get used to him because we're going to see him every episode from here on out and possibly in the movie as well. That's my prediction, is that we see him the remaining 3 episodes and in the movie.
I like that, man. You get a guy like Stephen Graham, but sounds good to me. Hopefully you're signing him up for stuff like that. And cards on the table, I want the scene with him, Arthur, Tommy, and Elfie all in the same, and Ada all in the same scene. Just give me them all like around the table, like trying to negotiate some shit or just drinking or both, whatever. I'm there for that. Also still there for the Alfie Solomons, Ruth Langmore from Ozark crossover. Still would do that if possible.
Yes.
But before we spin off into spin-offs, probably you got the red right hands, but let's hand out the hardware first. We usually like to start out kind of with what our favorite kind of, scene or moment of the episode is. And I have to say, overall, for me, there's a bunch of good ones, but I really just super enjoyed the scene with Ada in London, sitting there with Mosley, with Diana, with Uncle Jack, with Gina, and just running shit and being like as cool as fucking Tommy is doing it. Like sitting there multiple times, like I still don't have my champagne, just completely in control of the situation from start to finish, right to the point even before, like when she told Mosley and Diana, like, listen, the Shelbys are the one here with the fucking hand, so you just need to sit there and shut the fuck up. I thought that scene, again, Uncle Jack had a couple of good lines in there too. The best one, what did he say to Diana? It was something about amphetamines or something. It was
Yeah.
What the fuck was it? I have it right here, and it's like, oh yeah, it's like, oh, I've heard of you. The Talk of London with amphetamines and emeralds, and she's like, oh yeah, that's me. She's proud of it.
And he had a great line too, where he's like, "It's amazing what English women can do with money and just bones," or what was it? Something like that.
No, I got it.
Thought that was really good, too.
It's funny because I was going to use that for my last the episode, but the line is actually, it's amazing what English upper class women can do with just skin, bones, and arrogance.
It really is, man. Well, that dude, great scene. I absolutely am a fan.
Yeah, what's your favorite?
This was tough for me, Magnum Mills, because there's so many good ones. But dude, I gotta go to the overall scenes. Okay, the plural of Tommy doing the gypsy shit on the mountain. It was so different than anything we've ever seen. I thought it was brilliantly shot. I thought Cillian Murphy was fantastic here in this role. It was desperate, but in control. But we also got to see, when the theme has been, he will have no limitations. He does, in fact, have limitations. I'm fascinated with gypsy shit. I love it. I like the black magic story element. I thought this was just so well done. I could not get enough of it. And I like how they did it in bits and came back to other storylines and went back to it and came back and went back to it. And it kind of stretched throughout the entire episode. That was my favorite scenes of this episode by far. Very, very, very cool. Magnum Mills, there was a ton, let's just call it what it was, a shitload of great dialogue in this episode. And Magnum Mills, let me tell you, man, my favorite bit was at the beginning, first scene, when Tommy rushed in Ruby, he freaks out. That at the end of that scene, Tommy's sitting alone in the hospital room with Ruby, and he's basically telling her, he will solve this, he will fix this, he will make amends, he will make this happen. And Lizzie comes in and she's like, you should be wearing a mask. And he just takes a deep breath and he says, I am. And I thought that was so telling. And again, this episode, all of them, but this one especially, really kind of highlighted the bigger meaning behind shit. And I really like that, dude. Like, that was a powerful line from Tommy Shelby. Very powerful line. And you can interpret it. It's kind of like breaking down poetry. You can interpret it in a lot of different ways. And that's what's cool about breaking down poetry. What does it mean to you? What do you think the author was really trying to say here? But I think the same is true with Tommy Shelby here. I mean, that's a powerful line, Magnum Mills.
You could say, maybe it's a little bit too on the nose as far as a metaphor or whatever, but I think it parlays well into when you kind of get Tommy's inner monologue when he's getting x-rayed and he's thinking about what they will find inside. I think that all ties together, pretty nicely right there. So I got it, again, standout line there. I thought Uncle Jack got a couple good ones in. Ada, despite, Ada had a bunch of good, short lines, but she just generally, I'd say, dominated scenes, but didn't have a ton of a standout whatnot. I did like when everyone kept referring to her as Tommy's sister, and she was finally like, yes, it seems I am indeed the sister. I thought that one was pretty good. I gave out a couple of Uncle Jack's ones pretty good. In I'll give was it one runner up to when Esme told Tommy, how can you change so much and not change at all? I thought that was pretty good. But me, it's hard for me to avoid the bull, so I'm going to give my line of the episode to the man Arthur when he's getting him pumped up on the dock.
Yeah.
He tells him, any man, any fucking man can look like this before a Peaky Blinder. Peaky Blinder still look like this after. And he tells them to make sure you're fresh after we go in there, kick some ass, despite the fact that they don't actually end up kicking any ass.
Dude, all I know is, where was Arthur Shelby at any halftime locker room speech, any before game speech, anytime we're about to beef at a high school dance? Where was Arthur, bro? I would run through a wall for this guy, dude. Bring him in. Arthur Shelby should just be doing corporate retreats, dude, pumping up freaking salespeople. This guy is awesome, bro. Like, bring him into my life, have him pump me up, let me run through the wall, take over the world for him. I mean, fucking love this guy.
I mean, maybe the actor could probably do like, make that his career after this. Like, would it really surprise you? And yeah, dude, I mean, just great lines. That brings us on to the thing that you love the most. The big enchilada, the big O, the climax, the most valuable Peaky. And for me, it's pretty easy this week, dude. I think hands down, feet up. That's the way, in the back of the truck, whatever you want. Give me Ada all the way. A-D-A, all the Ada. I think she's the MVP, hands down. I really don't even believe that it's close. Jamie G, who are you handing it to?
Magnum Mills, not only are you a mathematician, but you are a very, very smart individual. I also got to give my most valuable Peaky, my MVP, to Ada Shelby Thorne. This woman was on fire, bro. I just love how she took control. And guess what? The show needed it. It needed it. This was an episode that was sad, bro. It was sad. We had a 7-year-old, beautiful, innocent daughter fall terribly ill and ultimately die, dude. And the wear and tear, what that does on parents, whether they're good or bad humans, it still sucks to lose a child. Like, I am never a fan of kids getting sick and dying ever in anything, even in the movies and in shows. I thought that having Ada's character here and some of the key dialogue around the scenes that she was in mitigated the blow of how sad this fucking episode was. And she just absolutely crushed, dude. This was an Ada in which we've never seen before. We always knew the potential was here, but they finally let the Jaguar out of the garage and it hit the strip, and baby, was the lights bright. She was fantastic. It's not even close. No one else I could give this episode, this MVP to in this episode. No one else. Maybe Tommy again, but Ada clearly is the winner for me.
Yeah, dude, it's all the Ada here. Jamie G, we're doubling up on the MVP. Not only does that rhyme, I think it's both apt and cool. And I do have to say that without knowing how the movie ends, like, just say somehow like the movie takes Tommy off the board or whatever, but then they do a spinoff of where Ada basically runs the Peaky Blinders. You're watching, aren't you?
100%. I'm all in. And honestly, I probably would at least sample it even without this episode, but seeing Ada in this role, oh yeah, dude.
Yeah,
if
totally.
Arthur lives and
Arthur and Ada, the double A's,
bro.
dude, the
yes.
double A's.
Double A, dude, all day long. And maybe, maybe Finn with the chin comes out and does something. We'll see. But, I got, for the record, Magnum Mills, I'm 50-50 on if that was actually Finn in that.
It might not. I love Finn, but he's very generic. But
yes, he is.
He's credited in the main cast. He was credited in the episode. I don't know where else he could have been. Sometimes I credit him without him being there, but I thought he was one of those, young dudes in the little gang there. So
yes.
Why would he not have been? Why would he not have been? Like, they have to use him somewhere. They're paying him.
That would have been the right spot to use him for sure. We don't want to forget about Finn, and we didn't. Now, Magnum Mills.
Hands?
I think it's time, baby, for a little red right hand. So what that means out there on the PPB podcast universe, the Peaky Blinders podcast, right here, right now, we are going to grade this episode 3, titled Gold, of Peaky Blinders season 6, on a scale of 1 to 10 red right hands, with 10 being the best possible score, the absolute teats. Magnum Mills, you gave your MVP first, so I'll go first here. This was a weird one to grade because, again, it was super sad. We saw Ruby die. But, dude, I got to admit here, man, the key emergence of other characters, the involvement of some of the other storylines, Tommy and what he's going through, and the way Cillian Murphy acted here, the cinematography, the filming, the visual. Dude, this to me, I'm going pretty damn high here, bro. I'm going 9-1 all day on this, and I'm worried that might be a little too low. Like, this was a fantastic episode. It was sad as shit and not the typical thing with Peaky, but it was fantastic for me. I'm giving it 9 red right hands with one finger. 9.1 red right hands.
Boy, I think you make a good point here. I was initially, like, I thought I was going to be a 9.2. It's same thing. I thought I'm maybe a little low. And then you're talking about it. And so I'm sitting here thinking about it. And I tried to figure out what I really didn't like about this episode. And what I really didn't like were the outcomes. Like, obviously, Ruby dying and like Tommy being depressed, like him and Lizzie splitting and Arthur struggling to be sober. None of those things is fun. But I think it all makes for great television. So I got to bump it up, dude. Like, this is, especially because Ada leads the episode so well, but Tommy has his own, think about it. They managed to basically give Ada, like, her episode in charge, but still give Tommy his own little 3-arc movie up in the mountains. Yeah, I'm going up to a 9.4 on this one, man. I think this is a 9.4 red right hands for me, dude. I think this is fantastic. Again, like you said, great cinematography, great use of music. Again, especially kind of when they stop, a couple of abrupt starts, and when they set it up, like, you know, when the Peakies are going into the docks at Liverpool, and you think it's going to go down a certain way, and then it doesn't. You know, it's kind of a certain thing, a little spoiler for Mad Men, but like they think they can kind of repeat the same thing that worked before. And then, you know, as the audience, you're like, oh, cool, I remember that. And then it goes a little bit against the trope and it doesn't happen. So 9.4 red right hands.
And honestly, when we, at the end of this season, we'll go back through and we'll revisit our grades right here on the Peaky Blinder podcast. I'm saying right now, I reserve the right to change this when it's all said and done, because this was an awesome episode, dude. I really can't think of anything I didn't like about it. Other than, like you said, it was sad, bro. But they did it in such a way that, man, it was as good as it gets from a Peaky Blinder standpoint. And it's, again, the show is staying really good. It would be so easy for them to just get the gang together and have them beating people's ass and raking in money and starting wars. But this is deeper than that, dude. They're on another level with the show. They're really dialed in, and fuck, is season 6 awesome.
Oh, dude, I mean, seriously, and I'm pretty sure that's going to justify the existence of a movie after this. You know, think about it. We're halfway through the season already. They only have 3 episodes left. There definitely seems to be enough, you know, proverbial meat on the bone for the movie there. And, you know, before we get out of here, we gave the red right hands. We got to maybe do a prediction of 2. And we've talked about them for the, you know, a few for the most part. Like I said, I think it's pretty obvious next episode, at least in my opinion, that Tommy will no longer be sober while Arthur will be sober. I think Tommy and Lizzie separate. And I think Arthur will still struggle to keep kind of being able to do his Peaky Blinders duties while being sober. How do you feel about those 3, Jamie G?
Agree with all 3. I do think that there's an interesting thing here. Are you going to make a prediction one way or the other on the time lapse? Does any time go by here? Or are you? It's such a flip of the coin for me, man. I feel like we got to bring in Frank Reynolds and flip a coin here to figure it out. But shout out to our podcast. A night pod cometh. But I will say that I'm not willing to make a prediction one way or the other on the time frame. Are you, Magnum Mills?
Well, Ada teased the meeting, but like when she was in London, was like, "Oh, we're gonna go up to Tommy's house for the real meeting." Yeah. So I think I don't think they can yada that. Maybe they can push it, but Uncle Jack's only there for the summer or whatever. And I call him Uncle Jack because they're just all the good Uncle Jacks. He started out as Uncle Jack. He's always going to be Uncle Jack for me. And maybe they can push it a little bit. You know, my guess is that Tommy's there, but maybe he's kind of all over the place, and Ada has to kind of still keep control or whatever. But I think they have to show that, so I don't think they can skip too far ahead there. Boy, I mean, there's a few, you know, good ones here. We already talked about, we both kind of think Hayden Stagg's going to play a pretty big role the rest of the season. That was on my list. And, you know, again, I said that Ada likes being in charge. I think that's going to be something that carries through going forward. And, you know, one for me here is I think we see Esme again.
I think so too. I think so too, bro. I don't think that's it for her. I think she plays a role because I think
She's
there's
too
going to
good.
be
If they had her too, like they got to bring her back in. She's great.
I think so too, dude. And I think it really worked. Like, I think the whole thing with Tommy getting away from the industrial business life and political life that Tommy's wrapped around in Birmingham, and when he's, doing his political work, and getting away from that and getting out into the wilderness, into the wild, and taking on this gypsy shit. There's more to it than just this one curse, I think. And so I think that she's going to play a critical role. And she's going to be involved in this at least one more time, if not all 3 episodes, but I think at least one more.
She seemed to, remember when Tommy showed up, pulled a gun, she didn't do anything. He pulls the cash out, she came forward. And then she was pretty, clearly willing to go there for cash, especially as she even pointed out, like, she knows about the markets collapsing and everything. So she doesn't even want cash. She wanted gold, which I think, again, was a nice way to kind of, again, that Tommy Shelby style, bring that circle back to completion all the way around there. And do you have any other predictions, or have we brought the people to completion?
I think we're going to see Uncle Jack again next episode. And I think next episode we'll get that meeting. I think we'll get that meeting in person between Mosley, Diana, Uncle Jack, and they'll continue to move that storyline along. I think we're still going to see something develop. There's a new storyline now with the opium and with Stag. I think that's going to continue. We touched on that. And I got to say, dude, I think the big thing that lies here is I think Ada stays in some sort of powerful position for the rest of this season. I don't know if it's in the head seat, but I think she stays in she's a new Polly. Anything. She's a new Polly. I think she kind of locked herself in.
We were going to
call
him that, but yeah, because I think Lizzie's off the board for it. So I think that, I think overall that makes a lot of sense. So yes or no, Alfie Solomon's next episode?
Oh, bro. I'm going to say yes, because I think Tommy goes to him before the meeting with Mosley. And I think he has some sort of plan, and it involves Alfie Solomon's.
Interesting.
If not this episode, I don't think we see him till episode 6.
Yeah, I think that my guess is they probably didn't get that much Tom Hardy. So I think you probably get maybe 2. I think you have probably 2 or 3 more scenes with Alfie left this season. It's just a matter of how do they want to deploy them. And the last one here, Michael, do we see him next episode? And if so, is he still in jail?
Yes and yes.
Oh, and I guess that's one more to follow up on the prediction that's still out there. I had predicted that Tommy would eventually start drinking and then, have relations with somebody like Gina, Diana, the chick from the IRA. Do you think now that the way this is going, now they're going to Tommy's house, you're going to have Dina and Diana there? Like, Diana's admitted she's into doing things with chicks. Is there a potential 3-way on the table here?
I think there is, and I'm not gonna lie, I won't be mad if it happens. It would be a strange scene. I don't think we've had
Tommy's going to be in a strange place, I feel.
Yeah, Tommy's going to
be, especially if Lizzie's off the board. That's what I'm saying. I mean,
bro, Tommy's in a very dark, strange place where he is. I think he's down for some debauchery.
It's the college years, especially now that Arthur's sober. Like, he's got to find new people to play with, kind of.
And play he will. Dude, I'll say this too, man. One wild one. Don't completely rule off Tommy having some strange gypsy sex with Esme. You thought it would be Arthur to bang her. I think it might be Tommy.
Interesting. And I think we were both in on Isaiah banging Ada.
I think so, bro. I think
that feels like it's going to happen, right?
Yep. I feel like I'm already kind of shipping them a little bit here. I think there's a chance for them too.
I'm not hating it.
Yep, I do think there's a chance for that. Yep. We'll find out, dude.
Yeah, let's have Ada get laid by a non-communist. Like, go non-communist. Yes. Like, nothing against y'all, but still. Let's have Ada bang a non-communist like that.
Just a regular
that'll
guy.
Definitely help with her standing in the Shelby company. I feel, you got to let her climb a little bit. I feel.
Well, let's not forget, dude, if she is going to be the new Paul banged whoever she wants. Shit, season 5 opened up to Paul just getting munched out, dude. I mean, that was, standing there enjoying her smoke as somebody's, pleasing her orally. That was a incredible way to open that for Polly. And Ada could become that bad little baddie, dude. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. She's on the trend.
Yeah, dude. I mean, at the end of the day, this was we're not even getting into the Tom Brady, the whatnot of it all. But I mean, this was kind of a Sunday, right, dude?
What a Sunday. I mean, not full-blown bloody Sunday, but holy shit, dude. I mean,
yeah, whatever.
I mean, Christ,
sorry,
Magnum
Bono. Don't say anything bad about Bono. We get in trouble. Cool, Bono.
Yeah, exactly. We might get, sorry. It's the only Bono here is pro Bono. I mean, shit, dude. Mills, we lost a damn hour thanks to daylight savings. That screwed me all up today. I guess on the plus side, Peaky did get here an hour earlier. It was kind of strange watching it while I was light outside here in the great country of America. And shit, dude. I mean, can you believe we're already halfway through season 6? I mean, this is just flying by. It's wild. It's so well done. The first 3 episodes, so much has happened. We got 3 remaining. I mean, this just feels like some of the best work they've done on this show throughout the series here.
Yeah, as somebody who, watched the show on Netflix where you could just move to that next episode, I am actually really enjoying this because it definitely gives you more time to reflect, and in the good way, not in the way that like Chris Rock used to talk about people, when they would wait for the results of their aid test, they would reflect. Not in that way. I'm talking about the good way. And if you like to reflect on Peaky Blinders in the good way, all you have to do is come back to PBP, a Peaky Blinders podcast, next week to check out when we talk about episode 4 of season 6 entitled Sapphire, which is scheduled to air Sunday, March 21st on BBC One. The synopsis of the episode is: Tommy establishes a connection between crime and political power that can alter the course of history. He also receives life-changing news from an unexpected source. So it sounds like it'll be a very uninteresting, peace-moving episode where nothing happens at all.
Yeah, typical Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah. It's all good. They're gonna like a little whiskey and whatever, have a couple smokes, it'll be over.
It's you really got to tip your hat to this show. I mean, it's gotten so good.
Wear your glass.
It's really dialed in. Yes.
Tip your hat, your glass, whatever.
Tip your hat, tip your glass. Only your hat if it has a built-in razor blade. If not, stick to the glass. Irish or Scotch. Magnum Mills, I want to take a moment and thank our viewers, our audience for listening in, watching in, doing all that great stuff. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, comment to PBP, the Peaky Blinders podcast. Also, head over to our channel, check out the Joe Blow Football Show. We got loads of shit. It's all for free. We're pumping out more content than HBO, Disney, and all of them put together. So maybe not quite, but it's pretty damn close. Magnum Mills and our legal team will check on that comment. Maybe I should have said it. Maybe I shouldn't have, but point remains, baby. We're putting out great shit for you, and it is, in fact, free. We also have a killer podcast, The Night Pod Cometh, where we break down one of our favorite shows, Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And also remember, we've got the Ozark podcast where we talk about the hit show Ozark. Look for that as part 2 of season 4 comes later in the year. Magnum Mills, tell these people where they can find all of that shit that I just rattled off. I'm getting yelled at by our legal team.
Yeah. Find Jamie G hiding in the neutral, like the one single-use bathroom that no one uses in the far wing of the building that everyone forgot existed. And seriously, thanks again for checking us out. If you have anything that you want to holler at us, we're on social media at Peaky Podcast, and you can hit us up through email at peakyblinderspodcast@gmail.com. I'm Magnum Mills. He's JBG. Like you said, we're from the JoeBlowFootballShow.com. We podcast about lots of things. You should check them out. We enjoy talking to them. We enjoy talking about that stuff and talking to you. And remember, everything's pretty easy. All you got to do is sit here, watch us, and remember that everyone has a plan.
Until they get hit with that red right hand. We'll see you next week. Thank you guys for listening. And remember, devil in the clutch with a red right hand. This has been PBP, a Peaky Blinders podcast presented by the Joe Blow Football Show. We are not in any way affiliated with Peaky Blinders, BBC Studios, or Netflix. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Any views or opinions expressed here are personal and do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations who may or may not be associated with the Joe Blow Football Show. If you have any questions, please contact us at peakyblinderspodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment. By order of the Peaky fucking Blinders.